everybody. David Donaldson here with another weekly episode of Entrepreneurial Impact along my teammate, Joe Martin, my partner, and the esteemed Dana Gentry. Very excited to have Dana with us today. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty of social media a little bit. And I wanted to kind of look at this from a different aspect, right? So let's try to hear where we're trying to come from on these angles. We utilize these tools in a myriad of ways. I think a lot of times, though, we're tone deaf to the messaging or the things that our consumers are saying. There may be a very direct question that may be being asked, but I think a lot of times we lack the understanding of the looking like they're sharing some incredibly personal stuff. And Dana, let's kind of, before I kind of jump into that, I just kind of remind people who you are. We have some new first-time listeners, so why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, what your background is, and why I thought this was such a great place for you to join us on.
Well, thanks for having me. You guys are a trip already, so this will be fun. I can already tell. Let's see, who am I? Okay, I've been in the real estate industry for 18 years. I started selling right out of college. I was at the University of Kentucky. I was a sophomore. I got my real estate license because I had another job and somebody came in there and said, you would be great at selling real estate. And I was kind of dabbling with a property management company too. So I got my license. I ended up working for a builder. I sold a lot of homes the first 2 years. I dropped out of college. I never went back. I don't have a college degree still to this day. And I've just been infatuated with all things real estate ever since then. My journey in selling was about 10 years. And then I got the opportunity to step into a leadership role. And so from there, I've pretty much grown in my leadership opportunities from a team leader to operating principal of the Keller Williams offices, regional role, and a couple other things in between. I have a podcast that we do a lot. I know you guys enjoy the podcast world too. So lots of different, it's just led to so many opportunities. And actually, my team does still sell in Lexington and Louisville and Central Kentucky. So I am still, not involved in working with buyers and sellers, but am involved in the real estate industry space still, like with clients, and very, very aware of what's happening, especially in the crazy market and industry that we're in today. However, I do want to say one thing before you get started and with all your extensive questions that you have, but and that is that I was recently filming, this ties with social media. Right. So I've been working with my videographer, Tyler, who I think Joe has met for years. We're on probably 7-8 years strong now. And we were filming just some lifestyle and branding building business content last month. And he came to Kentucky because I live in 2 different states, which is a whole nother story. But he came to Kentucky to film some lifestyle content. And we're going to talk about this because you said people open up on social media. And so I have really been working on not just sharing leadership and real estate content, but a lot of other content, because that's what people are coming to my page for, quite frankly. And then they're coming in for the other things. But we went and we filmed some stuff, like we filmed me getting Botox. And then we went and filmed my dog getting acupuncture. We had a whole day full of needles, which we didn't even plan, but it ended up being hilarious. So, but I share that with you because this is what's crazy. This is the power of why I love real estate so much. And it blends in with social media and relationship building, is because at the end of the day, we finished and Tyler was like, man, this might be some of the best content we've ever filmed. And he said, think about it. How did you meet Brandis, who's the doctor that does my Botox? And I said, ironically, her parents were one of the first houses that I ever sold. I sold her parents a house 18 years ago, and I've worked with their family ever since then. And now she owns a huge health spa and has had, just an amazing career. But I met her because I sold her parents' house. Then we went for Frankie to get acupuncture, my dog, and he said, how did you meet? I've had a long-term relationship with the vet.
You get acupuncture for your dog?
Yes.
All right. Separate subject, but okay.
We could digress down that squirrel, but he's 16 and in such great health. And I know it's because he gets acupuncture. But anyway, he said, how did you meet the vet? And I said, ironically, her mom has been an agent with Keller Williams for 20 something years in Lexington. And I knew her mom we were in the same office, and she introduced me to her daughter, and we have had multiple. So when I look at almost everything in my life now, and some of my best relationships are people that I met through real estate. And now we live out those relationships through social media because we don't have time to all hang out. we catch up on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
So I have 2 takeaways for everybody listening. One, if you want to be successful, don't go to the University of Kentucky. That's number one. Right? Because there's a whole lot of success in Dana's track record by realizing that was the wrong college to go to.
I think it was college in general, but that's okay. I'll let you give it to the cats for a minute.
So that's number one. Number two, sorry, my college best man, I was his best man was from University of Louisville, so I'll drop that one. But the second one is should have videotaped and put on social media when I had my bicep surgery. Those are my 2 takeaways to be highly successful in social media.
Woo!
No, you don't.
People would have watched it. People want a peek into your life. They want to see in your house. They want to see what your family does. They want to see where you vacation. That's why we watch Real Housewives and, whatever else the reality shows are that people watch. But people want, and that kind of goes with this, David, with one of your questions, because people want to like, know, and trust you.
Yes.
And in order to build trust, they need to see you, they need to know you, and they need to learn from you. And that's straight from Rory Vaden. That is not from Dana Gentry. And in order to do that, you have to be open and share things that, are parts of your life, because people are like, wow, they're a real person and they're genuine and they're authentic. And, all of those things, they're not just some talking head on Instagram, which I've seen a lot of since Friday.
They're going to start on that one. Everyone's apparently an expert on social media and real estate now. So.
Yeah.
So yes, you were right on, spot on all of that, right? And I've been an early listener, early adopter to Gary Vee, so he talks a lot about authenticity to social media. And I met him 10, 12, 15 years ago at this point, and it really spoke to me of how to utilize social media properly. But I think it's just still so missed on so many people. And I was having a conversation today about social trust, and that's kind of where I wanted to start with this. When I was teaching an agent, we were talking about blogging and what to say and how to say it. They were talking about polish and finish. I'm like, stop with all that noise. That's unauthentic. I get the branding, the imaging that you're trying to come across with, but I said, you just need to be you. Right? You're focused on developing your relationships and your territory and your turf and your neighborhoods and community. But you have such a unique and exquisite personality. Like, you came back from family reunion, you bought a trampoline and put it in your office so you could work yourself and hype yourself up each day. I said, imagine what it would, and I literally did this in the class. I'm like, grab your camera and follow me. Imagine what it would be like having them walk into your office and see you jumping down on this trampoline, getting ready to talk to you. I'm like, that's a connection. And he immediately just kind of dropped everything. He's like, I can do that. I'm like, they want that.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
So
I just thought of one thing really fast. I was on a call today with an agent, and we were just kind of talking about her business for a second. And she said, she's a member of this country club, and she's really working hard to build her brand and build her social media and gain more clients. And she's a great top individual agent producer. She'll do 50 units this year. But she said, I'm in this group text with about 25 people from this country club that I'm a membership of. They're big golfers, and she golfs a lot. And she said, there's another agent that's in the group text. And she said, I feel like she might be getting more business than me from the group. And I said, why? And she said, because she's posting in the group, because they're the only 2 realtors. And she's posting in the group like, hey, don't forget I'm having a movie night for my clients and their kids. Or, hey, I'm staging this house in our neighborhood, and here's some pictures if you know anybody. And the agent that I was talking to, she said, I've never posted anything in there, and I feel like I'm missing business. And I said, well, back up. Let me ask you, would it feel authentic for you to talk about real estate in that group? Because that's not really why you're a member of the group. And she said, no, I feel like it would be kind of out of character for me, because that's just not how I get my business. And I was like, well, there you go. Then don't talk about it in the group. Go about it another way, because if you feel like that's not genuine and authentic for you, they're going to feel like it's not genuine and authentic from you. So you might as well just not do it. And she's like, okay, that's all I needed to hear. And she'll touch them in another way. But that's such a great point that you said, David, because I do think people, they have to feel that, no matter, who it is that they're doing business with, but especially in real estate.
Yeah. And this whole thought process of where I kind of wanted to go was like the psychology of social media. And look, there's volumes and books and articles and experts talking about these things online. But really what I kind of was gravitating towards this thought process, like, gosh, people share things, emotional things, heartbreaking things, publicly without thinking twice about it. And there are things that they might not say to somebody in private, but they put it online. So I really want to kind of just start there and get your insight around it. Like, why do people have such social trust to share these things openly? Like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I don't know why they do it, but I agree with you. They actually do it.
It's a free psychiatrist.
Hold on. Yes, I was just getting ready to say that though, Joe. Because I think there's something to like feeling safe behind a screen or behind a phone, or whatever, which by the way can be great. And sometimes it can be horrible. Like sometimes I think there is something about oversharing. Like sometimes I'm like, whoa, like you didn't need to put that on Facebook. And I've even had to communicate to my agents before sometimes like, hey, you probably need to delete that. Like that's probably too much, like there are certain things, but I do think I think it's the way that they communicate almost now. Like Adam and I, my husband, we've been cracking up because like the kids won't text us back in a timely manner, but like if I'm not on Snapchat, but Adam got it just to talk to the kids, if he snaps them, it's like a millisecond they respond. And they have all these snaps on Snapchat. And I'm like, is it necessary to send 100,000 pictures in a year? And they're like, but that's our text message. Like we don't really text our friends. That's how we communicate. We snap. So I do think part of it is like, it's this evolution of that's just kind of the way that we communicate and we share things, with people in our life now. And it's become a norm to do that.
Yeah. And also I'll kind of backpedal for one second. I think if your friend really wants to stand out in their chat, she should use an Android phone, right? So that her texts stand out in a different color.
I say X too. David, are you an Android user?
I am.
Oh, gosh.
And
Joe, what are you doing?
There's two reasons. One, Joe won't buy me a new phone. Two, the only reason I do it is to bother all you Apple people. I never really cared. It bothers everybody immensely, and it fits my personality to go, yep, that's me.
I hate the stupid green bubble that jacks up everything, and then you got two different threads going on. Anyway, we're not talking about that today.
Me too.
I had to rub it in. I had to go there.
I appreciate that. We're all about having entrepreneurial impact and positive and negative. So my question, Dana, I got one question. This was something that I struggle with, and I'm totally going off script from Dave's question. So everybody that's listening, we had a very wonderful conversation about 15 minutes before this podcast went off about what we were trying to land, and I'm being dense. So I'm going to ask this question because I have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
What is what's the ratio between personal and professional content that you're posting? And then the second question I have is we just put on this HR hiring seminar last week. Yeah. I took absolutely no pictures or video because it's not in my first thought process to do. And I look back on it, it's a huge opportunity that I missed for promotion. So how do you balance the two of your life? And then the second question is, how do you remember to capture it and then actually post it? Because when I'm in the moment, I'm present to that. And I'm not thinking I'm having this conversation with you. My phone's over on the side over here on the side wall. And I don't have my phone on me. So how do you balance those two things? Because those are the big issues I always have with being able to tell that story on those platforms.
Those are such good questions, Joe. And I get those questions all the time. I will say a couple things. One, I enjoy social media. I always have. I've been on Instagram since the day that it came out. I love Facebook. I like it because I don't know. I don't like Facebook as much anymore. I'm much more on Instagram, but no matter which one you're on, you need to like one of them. So I do think there has to be a level of enjoying it. It would shock me though to hear that from you because I feel like yours specifically, you're pretty consistent. You're definitely really consistent with leadership posts and quotes and things like that. So that leads me to my next part, which is I had to just be really intentional about it. And even the leadership team members in my market centers and stuff, they know I'm nuts. If I haven't gotten a picture from one of them in 3 or 4 days, I'll text the director of first impressions. I'm like, where are my pictures? Where are our pictures for the week? How are we telling our story? And I do, because what you just said is so true. It does become a missed opportunity. And here's the deal. Perception is reality. And you can see other agents or for us, other brokerages that are blowing all this stuff up on social media, and you pull them up on Broker Metrics and they sold 4 houses last year. And like next year they might be, quadruple that, because perception is reality. And I'm not saying get on and lie, like absolutely not. I'm very anti that. But I think you have to get in a consistent rhythm with it. As far as like what to post, I'm at a point right now where I'm trying to like quickly kind of gain followers in a certain genre of people, if you will, like the leadership, entrepreneurial, real estate space for me. And so Tyler and I have really worked out about a 50-50. Where I'm posting like 50% real estate, or 50% business, because it's not always real estate, and then 50% personal stuff. What I have found lately, I've had a couple of reels that have really taken off, and they had nothing to do with the business stuff. However, my followers are growing, and a lot of them are realtors, which is awesome. But the ones that I've had take off, it's interesting. It's been stuff that isn't really business stuff. So Tyler has really been working with me on that. Like they might come to my page because like I posted a skincare one that like went viral, like my nightly skincare routine. But I grew like over 1,000 followers in that. And a lot of them are entrepreneurs, like in the real estate space or in the coaching space, in our realm of things, under our umbrella, I guess I should say. And so it's really opened my eyes. Like I texted him last week and said, okay, I'm like a filming content junkie. So we made a list, but I will tell you the biggest thing that helped me, and I had already done this, but I spent 3 hours on the flight back from family reunion, and I did what Rory Vaden said, and I made a list of the 52 questions that I get asked the most. In fact, I went back through my DMs and I looked at what people, and like, I mean, I can tell you, I mean, they are all over the place. And like, that's actually good, Tyler said, because it gives you such a wide variety. But you're I get from how do I get started in real estate to how long did it take me to sell my first house to what are the best places to grow your wealth? What are the 5 things? Joe, you will appreciate this. I'm coming to Charleston for the weekend. What are the 5 places that we need to go to? Because you asked me that. What supplements do I take? How do I start a podcast? How do I find a mentor? How do you do it all? Like, how do you recruit? I mean, I just made a list of the 52 questions that I get, and they're personal and they're business, and they're about a 50-50 mix. But like for the rest of the year, those are the questions that I'm answering on social media, because that's what people want, right? Like you kind of have to go to your people and say, what do you want? And then that's the content you deliver.
My takeaways on that one is, number one is relatability. Like as you were saying, all that stuff is like your skincare thing is like relatability. Yeah. And the other one would be the what people come to you for value. Like it's like when you say 52 questions, I think to myself, hey, they're coming to Dana because they're like, I see you of somebody that's accomplished something I've wanted to do. Yeah. And I'm trying to get your perspective to add value back to my life. So thank you. That's actually that's my takeaway.
Funny story on this that you will appreciate really quick. On the skincare one, I have a top producing real estate professional in one of my markets. I've been trying to recruit, for lack of better words, to come with us for probably 3 years. Do you know that he messaged me from that and said, my wife saw your video and I want to get her this stuff for Christmas. What would be the best? Like, which ones would you recommend? And I'm like, you won't return a text about real estate to me for anything. But now you're messaging me, wanting me to help you get your wife's Christmas. Like, sure. Because honestly, let me just provide value. It goes back to Gary Vee. One of my favorite books is here somewhere, and it's Jab, 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 Right Hook. Like, great I think book. Maybe his first book. And it's like, give, ask. Like, I'm a giver. And then I'm going to ask, but you're probably going to say yes, because I've given you so much that you're going to feel bad to say no at that point. Yeah. It's really kind of like the thing that I do to spill my secrets.
Absolutely. And you kind of spun this a little bit, right? Like the crowdsourcing, like you took that control of that crowdsourcing, right? So that was kind of like, I was saying, hey, people crowdsource, why? But I also kind of looked at it as like saying, hey, there's a line that agents have to tiptoe across from what they see, what they get from their consumers, right? But that same ability to ask questions, hey, what can I share with you? If you surfed social media and looked at your friends, like which people will take advantage of the ability to block people and listen and see what they're saying, kind of takes back into that social trust of like, be where they are. answer what they're looking for. And you can provide those things subliminally because you know that they're asking those questions openly already. The other side of that is I say, you have to read and listen, because people also are saying a lot of things online that we had the ability to outreach and recognize that they're saying something else. And that's kind of where I really kind of go back from a compassion side of things of you have to earn the trust of who they are, right? It's not just one thing just to be friends with them socially through it, right? Know your audience and who they are, but also being able to actually, when you're in relationship with somebody, because you've answered, been there for them and communicated, but when they say something that you know means a little bit more, then you have the ability to do something different. That's outside of business, that's outside of real estate, and you can actually pick up the phone because you understand that there's more meaning to what they're saying. That's kind of what I'm looking like. How do people utilize that to establish the proper connections, right?
Well, one, I don't remember kind of which question. I think this is where you're going with this. One of the questions that you asked me ahead of time that was something along the lines of like, why should agents pay attention, to their consumers and their clients when they are sharing these things? And my answer to that, it goes with what you're saying right now, though, and that's because of the 5 Ds, right? Like, I think we all know in real estate right now, most people are not trading a 2 or a 2.5 for a 6 and 3/4 or whatever it is. Unless they have to. And for most of those people, it's because of the 5 Ds. It's the diamonds, I always mess them up, diamonds, diapers, divorce, downsizing, death, or, Linda McKissick throws drugs in there too. Sometimes
Don't forget deployment.
Don't forget deployment.
Deployment. Okay, so there's like 7. Okay, I need to add those to my list. Deployment, drugs. Yeah, okay. So whatever they are. However, people aren't trading the rates right now unless they have to. And unless you are in such relationship with your people, which social media is the easiest way to do that, like, how do you know if those things are going on in their life so that they're going to make a move? You don't, right? I mean, and you said earlier, like, I think you were joking about something about stalking, that there is like a sense, there is like a small piece of it that's kind of, like that, because you do care. Of course, you're coming from like a caring place. And if you're not scanning and going through your friends on Facebook or your database or your sphere or whatever you want to call it, like, you are missing, I cannot get on for a week. And like today, I just realized one of our agents I used to be a partner with, like, her mom passed away this morning. I would have had no idea if I wouldn't have seen it on Facebook. Yeah. But that's like, I need to touch her anyway. And so that's a reason for me to touch her. And I sent her a text like right before I logged on with you guys. But if you aren't watching and paying attention to those things, then you don't know if like a diamond could be coming or a deployment could be coming or downsizing could be coming. And those are just the easiest things to be able to look at, because one of my biggest takeaways from Gary at Family Reunion was like what he opened up with at the CEO Summit. And I don't have it in front of me, but he said something like, we spend all this money trying to buy leads or generate leads. And if we just built a deeper relationship with our database, our sphere, so much so that we knew when those 5, 6, or 7, or however many Ds were going to happen, those are the ones that we could spend the least amount of money on, but that would usually pay us the most out of all of them. And it's true. You really have to be paying attention. And like, what better way than social media to know when those things are going to happen in your clients' lives?
I think it's so important that when people are surfing through, right, that you're not surfing through for enjoyment. You're surfing through for situational and personal awareness of what's happening in your extended sphere.
Yeah.
One question I've got that is coming through on like Dave's like frame up for this is, how do you look at this strategy around, because we're talking about like trust, right? Like, people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And part of it is like your strategy within social media is to lay the groundwork of like, I know Dave or I know Dana well before I have a conversation with them. So like, besides the part of like, hey, I got to have personal, and then I got to have professional, and then I got to think of actually capturing it, and then I got to do my edits and all the other nonsense. But like, how do you approach the strategy of laying the groundwork of, hey, if you come on my social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, that you've created a narrative and an environment that says, this is the vibe that Dana has.
Yeah.
I ask this question because I think a lot of real estate agents are hodgepodge about like their brand and who they are. And and there's actually a strategy to scale that. So they know like, oh, I know what she's going to be like in this. And hence that's why I'm going to, and I think it comes back to mind share, and I'll shut up after this one, is like your strategy and your vibe creates mind share over time, so that when they think and they wake up, they're like, oh, this is my issue. Dana's my person. So like, how do you go about that?
You're spot on, Joe, because remember what Rory Vaden said, and I actually do have this. I put it on a Post-it note. Your brand is what people think about when they think of you, like, period. And it might be multiple things. I mean, I can probably tell you what people think about when they think about me. Real estate is definitely one of them, and so is leadership. But they also think of me when they think about Charleston, South Carolina. And they also think about me when they think about, skincare, or if they have a Yorkie. I mean, I get the most random stuff. But anyway, there is a strategic way to that, and I actually am getting ready to drop. I just redid mine with Tyler, and we're tweaking it, but I'm getting ready to redrop it. And I've shared this with you, Joe. But the best strategy I've ever heard is the 3 pinned post and what those need to be. Because when someone comes to your profile, like I'm just going to speak Instagram, when they come to your grid on Instagram, they should be able to be on your grid for 3 to 4 minutes and they should know what to expect from you. And one of the quickest ways to do that is from your top 3 pinned post. Your first pinned post should be something that's about you, and it needs to be a video. Like it needs to say, what can they expect when they come to your page? What do you do? Who the heck are you? Some sort of 60 to 90 second or less video saying like, who is Joe Martin? Like they need to know who you are and what you do, what they can expect. The second pinned post is some sort of way to form an emotional connection. So it's usually like, I had this problem and here's how I fixed it and here's how I can help you. Or if you were a realtor making that, it might be, here are some of my clients who had this problem, and this problem. Here's how I helped them. And now look, they're in their dream homes, or look, they live in the city that they wanted to live in. Like, so you have to form an emotional connection. And then the third one, which I think is genius, is your frequently asked questions. We just did these for my Market Center pages. I'll have to send it to you, Joe, so you can actually see. I'd love your feedback, David, you too, on them. But it's the frequently asked questions. So like you would want to do maybe a carousel post of some of the 10 most frequently asked questions or 9 most frequently asked questions that you get, and go ahead and hit them off, like, so that they know. So I actually did this. I asked, here, let me find it. I asked ChatGPT. Adam has been challenging me to ask ChatGPT a question every single day, which is like a whole nother conversation. But I did ask ChatGPT this question. When consumers are choosing a real estate professional, they often have several important questions. What are those questions? And so it quickly gave me the 10 questions. Number 1, what are your commissions, splits, or fees? Of course. Number 2, oh shoot, hold on, I'm in the wrong one. Here we go. Number 2 is what's your experience or track record? Number 3, what's your marketing strategy? Number 4, how frequently will you communicate with me? Number 5, neighborhood expertise. Number 6, do you charge additional fees? Number 7, what are your references or some reviews? Number 8, do you have a team? Number 9, what's the contract and agreement terms to work with you? And number 10, what closing support do you provide? So I did that. I sent those to our agents in the top 20% and said, if you're making a frequently asked questions list, like, go ahead and just knock out these 10, because it's what consumers want to know when they're going to choose a realtor. So that's a long story, but I wanted to provide like an actionable item for your listeners too. That would be one of them. Go make your 3 pinned posts. Like, who are you? What do you do? How can you form an emotional connection? And then what are your 10 most frequently asked questions? Because if they just look at your top 3 pinned posts and they can knock all that out, they should know pretty quickly whether they want to work with you or not, and or do they trust you? Do they see you? Can they learn something from you? And then that'll just have them start to have the mind share that you just talked about.
It's incredible.
Thank you. I think it's like really helpful for people.
Good.
And we're all about help. Now, obviously you feature, you talked about Instagram. Generally speaking, and who your audience is going to vary from different platforms. How does an agent, we'll tee that up there, how does an agent know where to be?
Ooh, great question. Easy, quick answer. Where are your people? That's where you need to be. And I made that mistake. We were heavy on Facebook. I mean, a huge percentage of my business when I was selling came from Facebook. And when Instagram came out, I made the shift to Instagram. And I stopped posting on Facebook. Like, people probably thought that I died. I mean, I just went straight all in on Instagram. And our business from social media the following year, I know it to a T because Sarah frequently reminds me, dropped 34%. And the only thing we could tie it back to was I was not active on Facebook anymore. And it was a huge mistake because our client base at the time was still all in on Facebook. So you need to be where your people are. Like, if you don't have anybody in your sphere on Snapchat, then you don't need to be on Snapchat. If your people are, not watching YouTube, then you probably don't need to be on YouTube. If they're all on Instagram, you should be on Instagram. Like, you need to just be where your people are, where your sphere is the most. And for most of us, that's going to be Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. But it could be different for some. I mean, it might be somebody else too.
Yeah, yes, and that's incredibly important, right? Because then in with each of those systems, I spend more time on Facebook and Instagram, but it's growing. But there's a transitional process that because based on where they're going and where they're going to be next, who knows, right? But always be aware. But you can't be everything to everyone on all platforms. Right?
No, I will say one thing though on that. Yeah, I'm trying. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You froze a second, so I thought you were done. I do think it is important for everybody to have some sort of a presence on YouTube now, though. Like, maybe don't dump a bunch of money or a bunch of time into it, but like at least if you have a podcast, at least have your episodes putting on YouTube too, or at least have some of your videos going on YouTube, just because the search optimization it's so high. Like, kids are figuring out how to do stuff on YouTube before they're going to Google. Like, they're
absolutely.
Uh-oh. Oh, did I lose you?
You're there. You're back.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Maybe it's me that's freezing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's just
internet. Kentucky internet.
Right. Apparently, South Carolina.
No, I am in Kentucky right now, so it might be Kentucky.
Oh, I couldn't guess that even better. That's even funnier. It's too funny. I guess so. Like, I think for everyone that tuned in today, like the real takeaway was, how do you gain business through your social media presence and laying a groundwork of, hey, you're not going to post and then sell a house out of it. That there's a strategy behind your social media that takes years, right? Because I don't know if people listen to what you were saying, Dana, is that they tied back to you've been doing this for over 10 years. This isn't like, oh, I posted for a month and I went viral. It's been 10 years of evolution, and there needs to be a delayed gratification inside of your social media to realize that the real value of social media is the ability to create mind share and an image and what you represent without having to spend time directly with people. And then they get those soft nudges that you're talking about with life events, and they actually still build a rapport with you, even though they're not directly engaging with you on a regular basis. And what the beauty of what Dave was bringing up is that energy, that strategy, that execution that you've mastered provides trust. And the reason that they're reaching out to you, the reason they're doing direct messages, the reason they're asking for help in real estate or whatever other ventures you're in, is because your social media has laid out the groundwork of trust. Hence, there's no barrier for why I wouldn't reach out to Dana for help in whatever business venture or life thing.
The same agent that I was telling you about earlier, I was talking about, she said, I'm doing what you're saying. I'm spending $2,000 a month on the videos and the content. And by the way, her business is up big time right now. But she said, I can't figure the ROI. And I said, you're not going to. It's top of mind awareness. It's TOMA. I mean, you're doing that to be top of mind awareness and to gain the mind share. And it is very hard to measure an ROI from your social media, from what you're spending on that. It's almost like billboards. You know what I mean? When everyone was doing billboards, and some people still are, which, is great. But it's really hard to measure your ROI on billboards because yeah, you might get someone that says I'm calling because I saw your billboard, but really it's just you're out there trying to grab their mind share when they're driving down the road or they're headed to work or headed home, at the end of the day. And to me, social media is a lot of the same in that. And I think too, it is definitely the long game. Like what you said, Joe, is spot on. I mean, you can't post a couple videos and think that, maybe if you had one go viral, I know there's always an outlier, but for most of us, you're not going to be able to post a couple of videos and then, you've hit it big and you've got 100,000 followers and, you sell 10 houses. It's just not how it works. But I do think if you're not on social media at this point, you're absolutely being left behind. Like 100% you are being left behind, especially if you're not doing video. Like I tell my agents all the time, I know you don't like how you look or sound. I don't like how I look or sound either. Find me somebody that does. But like you still have to go and do it because you're going to be left behind if you don't.
I couldn't close it any better with that, right? Go to where they are. You got to be there. You got to listen. You got to take action, and you got to be seen and found. Right? There's little tips and trips from all that. It feels like I've been teaching social media for 10 years. I think every time I teach a class, I show people that, hey, did you know that you could actually break Facebook groups or your friends into lists, like tags and command? And they don't understand that. And I'm like, they're like, why would I do that? I'm like, so that your message that you post hits the right audience and so that you can actually see and be socially viable to the people in your world that are important and see what they're doing. You could break that down and reach such a larger audience that's just lost on them. And they want to complain about algorithms. I'm like, screw the algorithms. Get organized, get deliberate, and go where they are.
Yeah. Well, actually, I do want to say one more thing.
But that's just me.
You just made me think of one thing. I feel like I would be remiss to not say this. If once you get to a level on social, like right now, I'm trying to build my email list more through social media because the fact of the matter is like Zuckerberg or whatever his name is could shut down Facebook or Instagram tomorrow. And half these people, like their lives are over because all they've done is build a following on Instagram and Facebook. You have to build your email list first and foremost. Like that's got to be it. But if you're offering value on social media, like I know, Joe, you probably just saw, but I posted the notes from the end. I had actually, I was hoping to have more, but then I was like, you know what? I'm kind of okay with this because I had 187 people. I don't know the Facebook one yet, so there were more, but on Instagram, between DM and comments, I had 187 people say that they wanted it. And oh gosh, I'm trying to find it on my tab to look. Over 60 of them were not agents with KW, but they used to be, or they were with somebody else. So, for me, like that's, and also I'm building my email list, quite frankly, like I'm trying to add to my email database. So it's not every post, but every now and then, like I'm trying to be more strategic. I'm not trying, I am being more strategic to throw some things in there that are allowing me to get people's email list because I want to build a great brand on social media. Yet I know at the end of the day, it's the list that really matters.
So what I heard you say is that call to actions work. So those of you listening today, like it, listen, share it. And I appreciate you tuning in to Entrepreneurial Impact with Dana Gentry and Dave Donaldson. And please help us out and listen and like this podcast.